Genesys gamers, I'm MBT, and this is 100 Point Playtesting. Last week we checked out Predaplant, but it left a little something to be desired. Yes, those unpronounceable freaks are adept at fusion summoning, but they can be so much more. Today I'll be trying them in a synchro strategy. Presenting Rose Dragon.
Is his sled. It was his sled from when he was a kid. There, I just saved you 2 long boobless hours.
So here's the list, ethically sourced from Scarlon. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Looking for a place to find inspiration for Genesys decks? Well, look no further. I've already spent years telling you about how Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the best repository of deck lists, strategy articles, third-party assistance with alternate ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, and card collection management on the internet. But right now, it's also the best way to find Genesys lists. You can sort by deck type, filter high-level tournaments to see what's been working, and download decks you see in any format you desire. That's why I'm proud to be sponsored by www.ygoprodeck.com. Now back to the video. With that, let's reveal Rose Dragon. Rose Dragon, or Plant Synchro if you're a boomer, or Synchrocentric if you're an irritating boomer, is a deck that aims to make use of the plant typing's Fertile Soil 4 combo. The Rose Dragons and their associated free agents, the Predaplants and their associated free agents, the free agents, and the Scourge of 2010 Dandelion all coalesce into a beautiful garden that would make Gage gag. This deck aims to grow all manner of synchro bosses, a Crystal Wing, Dispotter, etc. through Bramble Rose Dragon, but don't let its fecundity fool you. It's also capable of closing out games with effect damage, courtesy of the insane burn effect on Black Rose Garden, which I've lost to a bunch of times in testing. So with that, let's get into the card by card. 3 copies of White Rose Dragon, 3 copies of Rocks Rose Dragon, 1 copy of Red Rose Dragon. Bringing up the list from last week, we've got 3 copies of Predaplant Longinephila, 1 the Lizard, and 1 Biblisp. After that, we've got Princess Drancia the Thirsting Tree, followed by Vengeful Witch, Twilight Rose Black Knight, Dandelion, Triple Black Rose Garden, Triple Frozen Rose, a Preda Primitive, a Super Duper Polymerization, a Normal less super duper polymerization, and a Blessed Winds. 4 pointed cards we are on: 2 Effect Veiler, 3 Molcharmi-Fulos, 3 Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, double Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and triple Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. The joy of playing an unpointed deck. In the extra, we've got a Rage Rose, 2 Black Roses, and it's important to split the arts, Predaplant Balte, a Garden Rose Maiden, a Licorice Lily Reaper, this is a TCG exclusive, Aromaseraphie Sweet Marjoram, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon, Chaos Star Source, Ambulo Melodies, and Dragostapelia, and our pointed cards Dispotter and 2 copies of Bramble Rose on the side. We've got Cosmic, Starcoals, DD Crows, Polynosis, Predaplanning, and GamCL. So with that, let's check out a match. Our match is up against Clown Crew, and as is usually the case with these hyper-specialized combo decks, I've got a better duelist than I behind the wheel. This is Scarlon piloting her own deck, and let's see how she does. She's going to begin with a copy of Longophilia, a card I've already forgotten how to pronounce, into a Lizard. That's going to summon itself to her side of the field, and then add from deck to hand a copy of Polymerization. From here, we're going to go into a Balte, activate the Balte effect in order to bring back the Lizard, draw a card, and then Polymerization off for an Ambulo Melodies. Ambulo Melodies is going to trigger into a Ghost Ogre. That's rough because we don't get the second effect, but we can still make something happen with the Preda Primitive, sending a copy of Biblisp to the graveyard and grabbing Super Duper Polymerization before triggering Biblisp for a Longophilia. From here, we can activate the effect of the Drancia in hand in order to send a Dandelion to the graveyard like it's 2010, get a couple of fluff tokens, and we are 1 material off here, so we will also summon back this Biblisp and activate Super Duper Polymerization for a Garden Rose Maiden into a Rage Rose Witch. We will send a couple of cards, then activate the effect of our Witch in Yard for Twilight Rose Black Knight, for its effect, for Balte, for a modulation, for Crystal Wing. Next, we'll go for a Frozen Rose. We'll trade for another Drancia. And after that, of course, we can go for the effect of the Bramble Rose Dragon to bring back the Twilight. We will go for a Crystal Wing into Vengeance and to bring back the Crystal Wing, courtesy of Garden Rose Maiden. And that's a pretty good board for being interrupted, plus 3 hand traps as backup. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Preparation of Rites for Flare. That is rough. They're going to follow it up with the effect of Flare and pitch a New Face, which is as bad as it gets. New Face triggers in the graveyard and summons back to their side of the field. Sets in the back row, I guess. Then they're going to go for a Rehearsal tributing Flare, which trades for 1 point of our interaction here, the Crystal Wing. They'll go for Malar Beesma next for a Fiends and Meteor, then tribute both for Bianca Viso, tucking back all of our synchros and triggering Bianca Viso. We can use Vengeance Dragon to push it to the back row, but unfortunately, we are going to lose everything here. They go for Operatics and are clearly relying on it because after we Ghost Ogre it, they pass. We should be able to win here, but it's going to be close. They'll go for the effect of the Clown Crew New Face, and because there's not going to be another turn, we probably have to negate it. We're going to go for the Dragon Drancia here. We'll go for Twilight Rose Knight into another Ghost Ogre. God, these draws. We'll go for Dispotter next in order to grab an Ambulo Melodies, and we can bring back the Crystal Wing, but I think we're 500 off here. How miserable. No big deal. We do have 2 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill, so all it's going to take is our opponent special summoning something with a reasonable attack stat. However, this deck doesn't always necessarily do that, so we'll have to find out. They're going to go for a new face in the standby phase, draw a card, then they'll proceed to their own main phase. From here, they're going to begin with a copy of Flare. That's going to grab a Rehearsal and pitch from hand to graveyard a copy of Chalice Slime. Next, they can use the graveyard effect of the Malar Beesma to tuck back our negate and then force out the other negate courtesy of the Flare Tribute. They'll go for Rehearsal next for a copy of Bianca Viso and a Malar Beesma, and then they'll activate the Malar Beesma for a copy of Fiends and Diablo, which will be tributed. That'll trigger the effect of the Bianca Viso and the Diablo and the Fiends and the face in order to pop the Polymerization, and would it kill you to special summon something with a reasonable attack stat? They're going to draw a couple of cards, and then unfortunately one of those is Spellcard Soul Exchange, so they've got Bianca Viso. Now they can use Matinee Operatics to summon a copy of Fiends, and that is just enough to get over our 6,000 life point total. Really rough one. So it's time for game 2, and oh joy, we found the Rose Dragons in our Rose Dragon deck. All right, we're going to begin with a copy of Rock's Rose Dragon. That'll grab from deck to hand a copy of Black Rose Garden, instrumental to this combo. We will go for white afterwards, set the red Rose Dragon into our grip, and the Black Rose Garden onto our field on our way to Bramble. We'll trigger the effect of our monsters in order to send a Vengeful to the graveyard, then activate its effect for a Twilight Rose Black Knight, sending the red Rose to the yard as well. We'll bring back Vengeful Witch, then modulate on our way to a Rage Rose. We will use that, and then the effects of our Biblisp and our Garden Rose remain in the graveyard to grab us more advantage and summon back this copy of a Red Rose Dragon. We'll activate the effect of the Bramble Rose for Black Rose, activate the Black Rose Protect, and then use the effect of the Black Rose Garden to do 29. We'll summon back the Twilight Rose Knight into a Dispotter into a White Rose Dragon. Then afterwards we'll make a second Bramble Rose into a damn Nibiru. Okay, that's miserable, but we do have the ability to bring it back on the next turn. We just got to get there. They'll go Rehearsal, pitch a Bianca Viso, which is kind of good news. They'll go Prep afterwards. I guess we go spell this, but that shit is not once per turn. Down comes Flare once again. They're going to activate the effect of Flare in order to grab from deck a Clown Crew new face, then pitch that so that it immediately gets set to their side of the field. From here, they're going to go ahead and fire off a Malar Beesma for a Fiends and a Meteor, then tribute them for Bianca Viso. They'll use Bianca Viso as CL1, so we can't Ghost Ogre it, but they don't have a way over the token just yet. Usually the way they get over it is by using Malar Beesma's Graveyard effect, and they don't really have access to it yet, so we just have to survive this turn. They'll begin with New Face in order to shuffle back and draw. Afterwards, we take a quick look at our hand, and Drancia is just what the doctor ordered. We'll send a Longophilia here on our way to Vengeance Dragon with the 11-star monster. We'll bring back a Rocks Rose for another Black Rose Garden, and this is a guaranteed amount of damage. I don't know if they're capable of beating. We'll cycle back the White Rose, and then afterwards we'll summon it out before making another Black Rose Dragon, firing the effect into both a Soiree and an add of Bianca Viso to the hand. We'll be able to blow up the entire board here, doming them for another huge amount of damage into Longophilia, into the Lizard, and we might just be able to get them out of the game courtesy of Gemini Elf in Balte. We'll summon back a Longophilia in attack position and get in for lethal. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and unfortunately this time we are on the draw, and our hand is ass. Okay, well, we do have a Fulos, which is something. We're going to do the effect in response to the Chalice line, which grabs them a Talismandra. That's nice. We can imperm the Talismandra, then afterwards they will set 2 and pass. Hey, I'm feeling good about that. And the face-up Talismandra means it's going to be impossible for them to summon from the extra deck. They will Twin Twist our Black Rose Garden. We will Cosmic their last remaining card in response. They will grab Flare for a future turn, and things aren't looking great. We'll go Drancia, send a copy of the Lizard to the graveyard, then we'll normal the Biblisp on our way to Balte. Activate Balte, and the Biblisp will grab a copy of Longophilia and summon back this copy of the Lizard. Draw me something crazy? Kind of. We'll go Bramble Rose here in order to go into a Black Rose. Then afterwards, we'll use the Black Rose and this copy of Frozen Rose to extend and wipe our opponent's field. From here, we can get back this copy of our Black Rose, summon out the Vengeful Witch, and then use Bramble Rose for this copy of Balte. And the last unknown is Nibiru again. You have got to be kidding me. All right, from this position, they can go Flare, grab a copy of Rehearsal. They can go ahead and discard this copy of Flare, then activate Rehearsal, tributing the Nibiru to grab a Bianca Viso and a Malar Beesma. Then they'll activate Malar Beesma to get a copy of Fiends and Meteor, tribute them both for Bianca Viso, draw a quadrillion cards, set everything they could ever want on the back row. Some decks get all the luck. They'll draw a couple and then activate Matinee Operatics using its effect to summon a Meteor, set 1, and activate its effect to draw 2. Now, we're not technically dead here, but the live Meteor means that it's going to be kind of hard to mount a Synchro Offensive. We'll begin with Longophilia to grab a Preda Primitive. Maybe we can go through Fusions instead. Godos comes down, which is a nightmare, but we can still use Preda Primitive to send the Preda Planning that we boarded in. We'll grab Super Duper and activate the effect for an Ambula Melodies into a Dragostapelia. Then we can Preda Planning to contest the back row. From here, the Dragostapelia is good but not great. We'll switch the token to attack position and do some damage in the Godos before getting over the defense position Meteor. We will activate the effect of the Longophilia into a Godos, into a Dragostapelia, into a Biancaviso, into a Ghost Ogre, into a Malarbizma, so they have enough material to tribute for another one. Unfortunately, in a new chain, they're going to be able to activate Biancaviso and the Lizard and shuffle all our monsters back, and though we can stop it from floating, we are kind of a sitting duck from this position. They're going to go for a Rehearsal, sending a copy of Flare to the graveyard and probably wrapping this one up. They will tuck the Dragostapelia, and just like that, we are out of points of interaction. That Malarbizma Engrave has gotten a Biru token's name all over it. They're going to go Biancaviso. They will tuck all the fusions back. They'll bounce our boy, and then get over for 19 and in for 25. Not dead yet, but there's no real 1 cards in this deck. That is not going to do it, unfortunately. We will set our Frozen Rose. They will Sinful Spoil Subdual for a Godos, and that's going to be all she wrote. We'll pass here. They'll draw. Hopefully they don't belabor the point, and we lose. So we're back with the deck, and despite the outcome, the games were good. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, it's hard to interact with. Since hands play out differently based on availability of starters and extenders, often an opponent will go for a piece of targeted interaction that just doesn't matter. 2, since you're locked the first turn, your follow-up not only opens up a bunch of cool options, it also opens up options you just didn't have access to, like the Preda Plants. And 3, Drancia is the best card ever printed and it's unpointed. Like, are you kidding? And the cons. 1, it's so clunky. There's like a dozen cards you aim to get to over the course of the combo, and opening them feels like hot ass. 2, since Black Rose Garden is both a starter and weirdly a source of inevitability, it means you take double damage to spot removal on your continuous spell. And 3, Shifter. I've spoken a lot about how this format feels segregated into shifter decks and non-shifter decks, but this is a non-shifter deck. All in all, this deck's extremely rewarding to clever pilots, but I'm obviously not one of them.